Hello, everyone. This is Rick Murphy with AllNet. Thanks for joining us today. With us today, we've got Al Dumbuya from Just Add Power, who's going to be giving us a presentation on the Just Add Power platform and specifically the new Tyler solutions from Just Add Power. So without further ado, Al, the floor is yours.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Al Dumbuya, and I am a regional sales director of Just Add Power. And just like Rick said, probably the purpose of this webinar is to introduce our 4K Tyler, model number 759A. I guess I should say the long-awaited Tyler itself. It's our second generation of the Tyler piece itself. Right now, we do have two items or two generations in production. We have our second generation, the 2G, as well as now our 3G Tyler that does 4K distribution that falls in line with our 3G product itself. You're going to see my email address there. First name is Al Haji, but I'm easily known as Al. Any one of those email addresses, my first name or the shortened version of my first name will work, will go directly to me. That is my direct cell phone number. Any kind of questions that you might have about this webinar or any kind of solution questions that you might have, I'm easily accessible via that line, either via call or text. I text a lot, so texting is easy for me. So if it's easy for you, that works. That sales number goes to our sales office. If I'm not on the road, I'm typically the one that will answer that phone call. We do always have someone here Monday through Friday, either from the sales team or our office manager. So any kind of questions that you're going to have that you can't get a hold of me, you'll be able to get someone on that line, as well as we do have voicemails. So I guess we're pretty cool like that. Support line, we are a U.S. company based in Largo, Florida, St. Pete area. So any calls that you make, you are talking to our engineers of our product. They will answer any one of your questions. They'll also help with design if you have those questions. But they're really proficient in our product, the added pieces or components that's needed to run a Just Add Power solution. But whatever it is, the question that you're going to have, you're going to be able to reach those guys there. So 3G Tyler. What actually is our 3G Tyler? So what we're doing with this additional piece I like to add is that we're able to do a virtual video wall onto one display. So as you can see, it is one piece that can live within a rack system. Doesn't have to live in a rack system, but obviously if you already have a centralized location for your Just Add Power equipment or your distribution equipment, this can live within that space. You're going to notice that it has 4 receivers built into this tiling piece, as well as a transmitter. A lot of people ask why the transmitter itself. Is because we're able to combine those 4 images or 4 sources with those receivers. And with that transmitter, we're able to make that a brand new source within your Just Add Power system. So within your or potential solution that your end user thinks that they might down the road want to use this tiling piece, this is going to take up 5 ports of your network switch. So that's always a piece that you should plan ahead for. But like you notice there, it's going to be 4 of the receivers and 1 of the transmitter. And with having this transmitter living in the system, not only will you allow, or will the system allow you to see this tiling piece onto a bigger screen, display or projection where it looks very nice, but it is accessible to your smaller TVs, 20-inch HDMI monitor to your 27-inch HDMI television, whatever it is. You'll be able to see this tiling piece as a source throughout your Just Add Power solution. And the way infrastructure works, any one of your transmitters that are in the system itself, your tiling piece has accessibility to it. So it is not going to be a static image you're able to switch within your sources that you have within your entire system. And in order to be able to see this tiler on every one of your displays that you have in the Just Add Power solution, you will still need a receiver connected to any one of those displays. That allows that receiver to see this tiling piece as its own solution throughout the system itself. When it deals with the tiling system or the tiler itself, and this came forth, at least your first 4 images that you see there, quad view, are static images on the way that it can be displayed. So you can utilize any one of the receivers that are built into the tiler itself as a single solution, as a single screen, so one source onto the screen, but then you can go up to 4 within having a bigger display and 3 smaller displays themselves in any kind of way that you want to have it, as well as quad it out. But then with the 3G tiler, you're able to actually customize in how you have the images displayed. So going from 2 images on the display itself, doubling that out to 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, either side by side, or even 3 laid out side by side, you're able to do that, as well as ultimately just customizing it. Having one source living in the background, depending on what that source is. You can make the rest of your sources transparent. You can make any of the sources transparent and having one of your sources be the dominant of the source, but still have accessibility as well as seeing the rest of your sources that's being sourced through that tiler. And then when it comes to it, you can do picture-in-picture, whatever configuration that you're wanting to do or customize, you're able to do with this tiler. One of the questions we get with the tiler itself is, how many tilers can you have? This becomes an unlimited source or solution in general. You can have infinite amount of tilers living within your system because, like I said, each one of your tilers becomes a source, and you're just looking with one of your tilers looking for that source. And you can have tilers living on top of tilers living on top of tilers. So it becomes really, really infinite depending on what you're wanting to do with your tiler itself. And this is just real-world example of the tiler living. You're going to see the 3 or 4 different static images that you can put on. The third image that you see on the bottom there, you see it being picture-in-picture. But this is the 4K solution when it deals with our tiler without any kind of problems whatsoever. There is the ability to do chroma key overlay. So any of the features that we have within the Just Add Power solution itself is going to be capable with the tiler. You'll notice before that you're able to rotate the images if that's what's needed, make it smaller, make it bigger. So really, gives you the ability to have a virtual video wall within a single display, but living on every display that has a Just Add Power receiver built in. So I also want to just briefly go over our 3G product itself, and just a brief introduction to Just Add Power. So we've been doing video over IP, HDMI over IP for over 10 years. We are a 25-year-old company, started off doing VGA over IP. But we are not a company that's just jumping on the bandwagon of AV over IP. We started with our 1G first generation up to our 2G, which is still in production. Well, I should say still in line and still supported by our support team as well as Just Add Power for added transmitters or added receivers or just added support in general. The introduction of our 3G series kind of leaves us with 2 solutions within the 3G itself, or solutions in general, a 4K solution as well as a 1080 solution. So first off, I'll just run through our 3G, which would be considered our 4K solution. When it deals with this transmitter, this is a scaled-down version of our transmitter itself. Does every one of the feature sets that we have at Just Add Power ability to do the distribution of 4K solution, rotate images, image pop, image pull, whatever it is that you're wanting to do with 4K distribution, you're able to do this with the 707 PoE, as well as uncompressed audio. You'll notice the HDMI in. Each one of our pieces have an RS-232, which can be changed into IR if that's needed for control of your source end or even on your transmit end. Each one of our pieces themselves are PoE pieces, but we still give you the ability to provide power to it if you're using it as a point-to-point solution or whatever it is that you're wanting to do with the piece. Being said, the 707 is our scaled-down version of our transmitter. We have the 718 AVP. This gets into our audio management of the devices themselves. So you're going to notice a mic in, a line in. So those are both mixable audio pieces that can be added into the transmitter end, as well as stereo extraction. So on the back of the device, you're going to notice the stereo, RS-232, and USB capability. The 718 AVP, having all those capabilities built in, as well as stereo extraction, does give you the ability to solve any kind of lip syncing issues or volume delay, all manually or digitally. On the bottom of each one of the devices themselves, you do have the ability to control that, as well as the web interface that's built into each one of our Just Add Power devices. This is our 3-input transmitter, exactly the same as the 718 AVP, all the audio inputs, all the audio outputs, as well as USB 2.0. I failed to mention that it does have the capability of CEC commands. So if you're using CEC or want to use CEC to turn on your source end, or even, and I'll talk about the receiving end, your AVP model will be the one that allows you to do that. Next, we have the 717 Hi-Fi. This is more of a specialized solution, probably being used, I'd say 5% of the times that I'm seeing solutions. This is going to be for your uncompressed audio with an AVR living in the rack. It is the only one of our 3G 4K solution pieces that does have an HDMI pass-through. So HDMI in, as well as HDMI out going to your AVR that's living in the rack. This is the only capability of this transmitter itself. It does not have audio extraction. It doesn't have the ability to do audio as well as lip syncing or volume delay. We do have wall plate transmitters that live in the same world, as in your more basic of the solution to your more audio management of the solution. So the basic of the solution, each one of the pieces are HDMI and VGA. Our wall plate solutions themselves, you have a 2-gang, and then you have the 4-gang. They come standard in either white or black, but then we do have an array of the Leviathan and the Lutron colors that can be customized based on whatever solution that you're having within the commercial space, if you're using it in the commercial space. On the receiving end, pretty simple on the receivers themselves. You have the scaled down version, or the basic version of our receiver, lives with your display, receiving, or we call it an encoder, encoding the transmission coming from the receiver, the transmitters. It is an HDMI out, which goes to your display. Obviously, you're going to notice the category that's coming from your network. It does have that RS-232, so if you're needing that for control on your display end, or if you need any kind of IR control for your display, you're able to turn that RS-232 into IR with our flux capacitor. Then we have our 518 AVP. This comes into that audio management piece. All the AVP models do the audio management, as well as it has the CEC and the capability of USB 2.0. So in a real-world solution, I'm trying to figure out how can I have one centralized computer but have that located or have the ability to access that computer from any one of my displays that I have in a Just Add Power solution. That is possible with this 518 AVP. You will have to use the 718 AVP or the 749 rack mount transmitter, connect it to that transmitter itself. you connect a USB dongle, wireless dongle for a mouse or keyboard to this receiver, and you have full access of that computer that can be located anywhere within your solution, either in a rack or being decentralized somewhere else. Also works great for touch panels and displays. Great example would be at Nike, so that all around their retail locations, they actually have touch panels that are being used to surf the web, do customizations on their on different kind of solutions or different kind of shoes that you can do their Nike ID. However, the computers aren't located right behind that. They're located in a rack system. They have a Just Add Power receiver connected to that, having full control of that computer itself. This whole solution here, or the AVP and the PoE that I just went through, is our 4K solution. But within our 3G family, we do have a 1080 solution, and we call it the Omega. So we rebranded our 2G product. If you've used our legacy product, our second generation product was in a blue box. We've rebranded that one into the black box, having the same functionality feature sets that we have in our 4K solution and overall distribution. However, it is maxed out at 1080. So what we're seeing is a split within our generations or within our series in the 3G. A majority, or if not all, of residential, brand new residential projects are being used with our 4K solution, but then 1080 still lives. So this replaces that second generation product. Any new 1080 solutions for bars, restaurants, commercial space, whatever it is that doesn't in the foreseeable future look like it's going to use any kind of 4K, this will still live. And like I said, this replaces, is a direct replacement. So these work side by side with our legacy product. You don't have to rip out the old product for the new product itself. This will lay right in line with it. And then with the products, you have the 716 VGA. It is a VGA solution in our single input transmitter. And then our HDMI distribution pieces. The scaled down version, the 705, has the HDMI in, RS-232, still has the full feature set of 1080 distribution itself. And then you have the more robust or audio-friendly or audio management piece of the 715 on the transmit end. It does have an HDMI loop out, but you're going to notice the stereo extraction, just like the AVP model on the 3G series or the 4K series itself. This does do the audio delay, lip sync, and volume either digitally as well as manually on the bottom of each one of the devices, and it still does do the USB distribution if you're needing that in this solution. 505 on the receiving end, it's the scaled down version. I'm seeing the 505 being used in a majority of the solutions themselves because they're not needing the audio management pieces on our products. So the 515 itself, like you notice on the AVP model on its counterpart of the 4K, USB distribution, USB capability. It does have CEC capabilities as well as stereo extraction. So that's the line right now of our product that's totally in production. And one of the great things about Just Add Power is we just don't leave you out there in the cold when it deals with our legacy product. So it's more of an evolution of our product. Like I introduced this Omega line itself, it's a direct replacement of the 2G. So any of the 2G products that are out there, legacy systems that are out there, this can fall right in line, as well as there is the capability, and this would work great in the residential space, that maybe your end user may possibly start moving towards that 4K solution. You can still purchase a 4K Just Add Power transmitter or receiver, use it as a 1080 device itself, and do full distribution. So kind of stacking the deck now for down the future, if it's a couple years, if they decide to go all 4K, they already have pieces that have the ability of doing 4K and still live within a legacy product or even existing product. One of the new pieces, and this just shows of our evolution of thing that we do, not leaving our legacy product behind, is we are introducing a web-based control format that we are doing free for any one of our Just Add Power systems. And this is just a simple update, firmware update that you would do that's located on our website, on our support side of the website. It is still in its beta format, and it's being tested out by some of our integrators, trusted integrators out there in the field. If you know of anyone that is really into the Just Add Power world and would like to be part of this beta format and testing out and giving feedback on the usage of this switching command or switching control, which is all web-based, please send me an email. Please send an email to our sales team, and we will be able to add you to this beta format. But what you're looking right now is being able to do switching from any one of the Just Add Power transmitters and receivers. The left image that you see there is from an iPhone, just logged in through Safari, and they're able to see any one of the sources as well as every one of the displays. You will have the capability of image pool and label any one of the devices that are in the system itself any way that you want to. So this is all web-based, and right now I have examples of it being living in the Apple world, but it's web-based. So as long as you're able to log into the Just Add Power devices, you are going to have an easy, simple way of when switching without having to spend the extra dollar or your end user spending the extra for a control system or any kind of control software or licensing fee that they might have to use. Coming soon, still in the testing phase. Just give us a couple months, but I can send out information if you're needing that and being part of our beta team. And I just added this at the end here just to talk about how we do in our feature sets of Just Add Power itself. You're not going to see or find another AV over IP company that's able to do the entire feature sets that we have within our product line itself. Every one of these feature sets are done through firmware updates, easily done through our support side of the website, but it just keeps on growing. And it just keeps on growing when it deals with where you see a Just Add Power solution, from corporate locations to bars and restaurants, obviously residential, where we are primarily, or a majority of the projects that we have of Just Add Power solutions out there are residential, but we still live in the commercial space, and it's growing huge. That being said, I wanted to make sure I didn't take up too much of your time, but that is what I have when it deals with our 4K tiler, which is now shipping, as well as our updated product line of our 4K, as well as our 1080 Omega series. I guess I can get any kind of questions.
So one of the questions, going back to the Tyler presentation,
Sure.
Is each box 4K, or is the entire display going to be 4K and each box going to be 1080? I think this is in regard to the inputs that are coming into the Tyler, and then how they scale on the ultimate display output.
Your output will be 4K, yes. It is a 4K solution.
Is there a limitation to the input resolution that you can send into it?
There is no resolution limitation at all, no.
Okay, so you can send in inputs up to 4K, and then they're just scaled within the Tyler.
Absolutely, yes.
Perfect, okay. If the stereo output is used on the transmitter to feed an audio switch, will this cause the source to default to PCM stereo, or does this downconvert so the source can maintain multi-channel being distributed throughout AV receivers remotely?
You might have to say that one more time. So if you're just using the audio coming directly off of the source, is there any kind of downgrade in the audio itself? Is that what I'm understanding?
My guess is that he's concerned that if he connects to the Just Add Power system, will the Just Add Power system, almost like an EDID on the video side, will it tell the audio switch to dumb its output down to PCM, or will the Just Add Power piece accept the multi-channel and downconvert?
It will multi-channel. So if we're talking about the 718 or even the 749, so that does have a 5.1 max when it deals with its down mixing. So it can go 5.1 down to a 2-channel, if I'm answering the question correctly. Or if you're needing anything that's going to be uncompressed, that's when you would use your hi-fi, the 717, or just overall distribution would be the 707 PoE that does uncompressed audio as well. But it will not dumb down other than the 5 if you're extracting from the transmitter.
Are the web snapshots of the video sources available for control system touch panels that have the ability to insert URL sources?
Yes. So that's going to be all based on the control system itself, and it's going to be snapshots just like you said. So a couple frames per second, roughly about 5 to 7 frames per second. But your control system would have the ability of doing that, or dependent on the control system. Independent from the control system, via the IP address of any one of our transmitters or the receivers, you have, as an integrator, have the ability to see these snapshots as well. So it becomes a really cool troubleshooting tool. But yes, on your controlling end, you will have the ability of doing that.
Paul wants clarification on the Tyler solution. So if he has 4 sources and then 1 display, what is the equipment list for the J&P product?
You're going to need 4 transmitters, and then you're going to need the Tyler. So typically I recommend having an extra receiver for that 1 display, and then having the additional Tyler. That there is an HDMI out on the Tyler itself. So if this is just going to be either a point-to-point solution that you're having the Just Add Power receivers connected directly to the transmitter and doing a static image of the tiling, you can do that. If it's connected to the network switch, you can do that. But there is an HDMI out that will go directly to your display. Typically, I would say having an extra receiver or having a receiver onto that display itself makes it an easier configuration for you in general. But you're definitely going to need at least 4 transmitters, and in this case, a receiver, and then the Tyler sits on top. We see it as almost as an accessory. And then
the other question that we have is in regard to the Omega solution when we've got a mixture of 1080 and 4K. So if there is an existing 1080 system that has the 2G products, can those 2G receivers be flashed to the new firmware and be inserted into a 3G system?
They cannot. So your 2G as well as your Omega max out at 1080. They just don't have the chipsets and the ability to do the 2160 resolution. So it's going to be an HDMI 1.4 when it deals with that. So it's really, it's max out. However, and we'll think about just a legacy product that your customer does add a 1080 source or even a 1080 or a 4K display and slowly build in their system in that way. There is a way to add the 3G 4K pieces within that solution. You'd have to get the individual pieces based on your source or even your receiving end, but then you would have additional pieces, 3G pieces that you would add, and we call that the bridging mode. And that information is all located on our website. So you're adding more pieces within that, but there is a way to actually have all of that live within the same system. Ideally, if you're building a new system, you want to go with the 4K.
Sure.
Even if it's a 1080 solution right now, especially residential, you want to go 4K and you're looking 3G. But there is a way for your existing systems out there that are adding 4K sources to the system itself that you will be able to add that in. And so if you go to our support side, by the way, our support side is the meat and potatoes of Just Add Power, is in everything that you want to do. And if you go to our support side, typing bridging, or even look at system design, you will see all the different ways that you can add a 4K source into a 1080 solution and have each one of your 2G products actually see those pieces. So it is possible, yes.
Yeah, and I think the question was more in the upgrade path with Just Add Power versus if this were a traditional matrix, you'd almost have to scrap the entire equipment stack and start over.
Yeah, and that just goes to us being able to support our older products. So yeah, like you said, if you do have a 1080 solution and any other kind of product itself, you are starting from scratch. We do give you the ability to add pieces without scrapping your existing system. So, but if the question is if Omega can see 4K or if 2G can see 4K with any kind of firmware updates, it cannot. It's not possible.
Okay. The firmware thing I saw on your Omega slide, I guess that's why I didn't know if that was the secret sauce to it.
Yeah, so when it deals with the firmware and the Omega slide itself or Omega itself, we do have a firmware that kind of, or a command that kind of tricks it to think that it's a 3G product. That unlocks some of the capabilities or features that we had in previously our 3G or 4K solution. However, it still is a 1080. So yes, you'll get some of the features, but the overall distribution of 4K, your Omega will not allow that to happen.
Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions come through. Well, Al, we've got a little bit more time. Do you want to go over some of the advanced applications that are out in the field? So, by the way, Alan and I did go to Great American Ballpark and see Just Add Power system that was there while we were at the baseball game. It looked good. We didn't go into the private areas. We didn't try to press our luck. But, yeah, everything was dead nuts on, and it looked great.
Yeah, so currently Great American has the most, at least that we know of right now, and I think Miami Airport is growing really fast, but they have the most inputs and outputs of Just Add Power. And it's close to 800 pieces of Just Add Power of transmitters and receivers, roughly about 150 transmitters and the rest are receivers. So if you're ever in Cincinnati, highlights of Cincinnati would be Great American Ballpark, even though the team might not be great right now. But all along the concourse, you're going to see Just Add Power video distribution. A number of video walls that are in each one of their restaurants and bars, as well as along the concourse. They just opened up, at least last year, they opened up a new Cincinnati Bell Optic Zone, which is just a bar, kind of a millennial feel, a rooftop bar with about 3 video walls up there and other displays that are being doing the distribution of Just Add Power. Each one of their suites, their private suites now have all gone 4K. They previously had second generation product in there, but being a little bit more closer to your display, 4K really makes a difference. They've gone all 4K, a mixture of regular transmitters as well as wall plate transmitters. Just recently, they upgraded they call it the Scouts Alley, and those are the seats that you would find behind the backstop or behind home plate that has its own little cave or cove that has a full spread buffet, as well as the interactive zone that has wall plates to displays that allows you to interact with anything with the Cincinnati Reds, interact outside of the Reds via the internet. So that right there is probably our biggest, that kind of utilizes our full feature sets of distribution or even image pop, image pool, and everything else that Just Add Power does. Overall, in your commercial field, we're seeing our products being used a lot in bars and restaurants. BW3 seems to be very big right now with Just Add Power. We have a number of locations in the Midwest that are moving from your composite to HDMI over IP, and Just Add Power is being used there. Main Source, which is let me get to that slide, which is a high-end, I guess more interactive bowling alley, main event, I should say. interactive bowling alley. So obviously, generation now, stimuli, and a lot of media is needed within the space itself. So you have the bowling alley with a lot of flashing lights, but then you have almost like the sports bar feel within with a lot of displays, and that's all being done with Just Add Power. Yeah, those are probably the biggest ones that I'm seeing out there in the field. I think we talked about Twin Peaks recently, Rick, that there's one out on the outside of Indianapolis that, depending on what location you go, 'cause some of them are franchise owned, you're going to see Just Add Power being used in those. And a lot of those are used in our either the legacy product with our 2G, but they're moving into our Omega line. 1080 is being used, so that just lends you to know that 1080 is still living there. We still support 1080 either with our 2G product, with our legacy product, or ongoing. So we just see it as a solution that's going to be out there in the field for a long time.
Yeah, we saw when Bill Zidek was in town one of the last times we went out to dinner, and we kind of went around a little bit, and we decided to go to Twin Peaks to see if the Just Add Power. And sure enough, it's right in the rack, right behind the host stand. So Castleton, Indiana, right by, not too far from our Carmel, Indiana branch. Okay, I did get a question that came in now. Oh, since the Tyler has its own power, it does not need to be connected to the PoE ports or factored into the PoE budget. Okay, so yeah, that's correct. And that's the same with also the 3-port transmitter, correct? Right.
And so if we're talking a little bit of the recommended switches, so the switches that we recommend, all the ones that we list for recommendation for our products or our projects are all PoE pieces. So really, when you're picking out a model or a brand, when it deals with those switches, all of them are PoE, or we recommend getting all the PoE ones. But yeah, those pieces themselves have their own power display, or power ports, so you're not needing to provide power from the network switch.
Okay, so I've got a quick follow-up question about Great American Ballpark. So there were displays. You said 800 nodes on that network. There were displays in all corners of this ballpark. What were they using to distribute in that ballpark?
They're using a mixture, depending on where it's being used, a mixture of Crestron as well as RTI.
Okay, and what for the IT side? Was it just stack switches?
Yes, they're using Cisco switches. I forget which model of the Cisco switches. So they're using Cisco switches, and they have a number of closets that they're using that are all connected via fiber.
Oh, okay. Where is the breakpoint where it's more cost-effective to use Just Add Power over IP versus traditional matrix switching?
I say there is no breakpoint, especially when you're thinking of our 4K product. So if we're even thinking of the PoE pieces, our scaled-down version of our 3G line itself, so the 707 and the 508, the price points that are on there make it very affordable to do full 4K distribution on a budget-friendly plan. As well as you can get a very good network switch, either the Luxor or the Cisco, at a very good price point, depending on how many ports you're using. So in my opinion, there is none. Any size is going to work when it deals with Just Add Power.
Okay, and thanks for that. And then we had a question actually come up within our office here. A question came up about having a system for home use or for demonstration. Is there like a program that's specific, or is it just a case-by-case and call-in?
It's more of a case-by-case. So we don't have anything official on the books. Okay. But if you'd like to email me situations, either the integrator email me directly or whatever it is, then we can work on it, but nothing officially.
Well, Al, thank you very much for your time today, and I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Al, I think we're done today.
Awesome.
If anyone has any follow-up questions about Just Add Power, please feel free to reach out to me or to reach out to Bill Zidek or your AllNet salesperson. So thank you, everyone, for your time. We're going to go ahead and end the presentation now.